Hi, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Flock Talk. I'm Robin Sullivan of the Leather Elves. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're all somewhere snuggly and warm. We have the usual announcements to make, different ways to watch Flock Talk. You can like and follow the Leather Elves on Facebook. That way you get notification when we go live. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Instagram. Just so you guys know, we are ramping up for the Rockstar Rescue Tour 2025. Myself and Carrie Ellen Lorman of Bird Gardens of Naples. We will be heading from Pittsfield, Maine to Tacoma, Washington in August. You can use that QR code to get to the Rockstar Tour or the Rockstar page on the Leather Elves. We are doing a sale this weekend. We love birds. We're going to double the love this weekend only from today until Sunday night. All rescue box orders will be doubled. So if you buy a $25 box for your favorite rescue, there will be two $25 boxes going to that rescue. Twice the toys for your birds. And because we love you guys for supporting us, we will also be sending all the donors a $25 gift card, which is good for future purchases. So double the love sale this weekend. Take advantage of us. And then we also, there's somebody that I really need to send a huge thank you out to. This lady has always been supportive of us. She has believed in us for the longest time. We want to thank Diane Hyde. She is a Hall of Fame rock star. She messaged me today, and she is doing a box for all one for each of the 26 rescues that we will be visiting on our tour. So thank you so much, Diane. Happy Valentine's Day. All right. So tonight I have two very special guests, the creators of Pollybird. So I need to introduce you guys to Jana and Cody Higdem. Hi, guys. How
Hi,
are
Robin.
you?
We're doing
Happy
great.
Valentine's.
Happy
The same to
Valentine's
you,
Day.
yeah.
So I have two bios, and I'm going to read them both because you guys are pretty impressive. So as a psychologist, you are. As a psychologist, Jana has spent her career applying data-driven insights to help leaders unlock their potential and enhance human interaction. A skill set, she now extends to the world of animals flourishing. Bridging scientific research, technology, and enrichment strategies, along with a personal passion, to improve the lives of companion animals. She helped shape Pollybird into more than just a tech platform. It's an ecosystem designed to foster meaningful social connections between parrots in a way that mirrors their natural instincts. I gotta say, Jana, you and I have had several conversations, but um, one of the things that hits me about you being a psychologist is I have always said it's the same science, it's just how you apply it. So I
Yeah.
think that's really a great segue into that. So, and then there's Cody. So, Cody grew up immersed in animal training and behavioral rehabilitation, learning from his mother, a leading expert in canine aggression and obedience. From an early age, he developed a deep respect for the intelligence and emotional depth of animals. A software engineer and entrepreneur, Cody founded When Wild, dedicated to leveraging technology to enrich the lives of pets and their owners. With Pollybird, he is pioneering new ways for highly intelligent birds to connect, engage, and thrive in a digital world. This is like the perfect combination you two have there.
Yeah, peanut butter and jam. Yeah, we're doing
There
good.
it is. There it is. So, all right. I met Jana and Cody at Parrot Festival, and I had heard about them from Karen Anderson from Avian Sweets. Karen was talking about this great couple, and they're so excited, and they've got this great thing going on. And I was like, okay. And then I met them, and she was 100% right. Hey, Karen. Karen's on. But tell us what the origin of Polybird is. How did this come about?
Yeah. So the funny thing, we're gonna talk about a couple of species that aren't even birds. It started sort of in an unexpected place. So a camera app for dogs that was used on a horse, and it worked. So if I back up a little bit, at When Wild, Cody and his team had built out a squeaky camera app that was used to help owners take really awesome pictures of their dogs, and it worked with cats, right? Capture their attention in a way that can be really tricky. And we know, any of us dog owners and probably parrot owners too, you scroll through your phone, you've got so many pictures of your dogs. And so as we thought about expanding this technology, we thought, well, what about birds? What about all the owners with birds? How can the sounds and technology be expanded there? What would be beneficial? And we explored broader soundscapes and what would be useful. And the research, really, again, being rooted in research, research is clear. Live video interaction is really where these captive birds are getting so much more benefit. And so we put some tech to work and built Pollybird. And then we have had the most magnificent time working with Karen Anderson, Hazel Banks, and their broader team to really make sure that as we design it, it's bird first, really fun, and super simple. And here we are.
Nice. That is so cool. So tell me, I'm going off script on you guys, but tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about When Wild. What is that?
Yeah, that's essentially that's our mission statement was to make sure that we're doing the best for a variety of animals and build that animal enrichment. And so we kind of started with the squeaky camera aspect, and lumped it into this concept of, well, how can we make life easier for animals and anybody who happens to own them, and any companions they have.
Yep.
Would you agree with that, Jan?
Yeah. If you summarize, how do we make life the best it can be for pets and the humans that love them? And so anything we do at When Wild really focuses around that premise first.
Okay. So, excuse me, you talked about research. How does the research come in? What, because that's, it's really important. You come from a science background. My background is in behavior science, and it's a matter of that it's important. I mean, we can say, okay, this works great, this is wonderful. Where does the science come in?
Yeah, the science is really at the root of it. In first understanding, I mean, the broader research around parrots as a broad set of species, and what
Mhm.
do we know about them from wild parrots, as all the way down to what research is finding in terms of enriching captive parrots. And there is new research specifically around engaging these social aspects of captive parrots and supporting them through live interactive video chat and building a virtual flock. And it's amazing to see how it's led to different new behaviors and skill sets and vocalizations for a variety of different avian species.
So, I talk a lot about when I'm talking about enrichment with people, and I have always said, you are part of the flock. And people say, well, I have to get another bird because my bird's lonely, my bird's alone. Talk to me a little bit about the socialization that happens.
Yeah, through Pollybird or more broadly.
Well, both. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I'll certainly caveat that we're not experts on this, but as we've continued to explore, it's very clear that parrots in themselves have their own complexity in social needs, just like we do. And so when it comes to building connections, building that social engagement, it's essentially core to that animal enrichment stack, essentially, where you have your food, you have your cages, you have training, as well as socialization. And it became very clear early on that uh, a large portion of parrots socialization is vocal. they're
Mhm.
they're reaching out either to their mate, or they're reaching out to their closest members of the flock. And from that standpoint, it became very clear that you're dealing with a situation where you have to look at it from a category of, these are parrots, these are a
Mhm.
species, and then you have to filter it through as an individual basis.
Mhm.
um, Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jana, on that?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to step back for a moment. Like when you think about parrots in the wild, solitude is not a concept for them. Their entire life is sort of entrenched in the flock experience and
Mhm.
building bonds. The theme of our evening today, building connections, building bonds. That's how they engage trust is through, through preening, through vocalization, through helpful behaviors. Excuse me. And so it's incredible to connect what is so innately natural for parrots in the wild and then build that into what so many folks are focused on now through enrichment, through welfare for their birds, right?
Mhm.
Providing a strong positive social bond is clearly the norm today, or the focus today, versus more of a dominance mindset. And so that human bird social bond, really critical. And what I think, and again, feel free to chime in, anyone, if they know differently. But what the broader research literature is bearing out is that birds in captivity certainly benefit from having another bird with them, but they also certainly benefit from that human relationship. And
Mhm.
so when we think about Pollybird, we're fleshing out, it's a both and. We're fleshing out that additional flock experience of the relationships birds would get in the wild that are maybe not their immediate bond, their immediate
Mhm.
pair, but those broader kind of second tier or secondary relationships that they would be experiencing on a daily basis, as part of the
Yeah.
flock.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
I was going to say
No,
to
I
your point, Robin, where you were saying, I think you cannot really have a companion bird, in particular a parrot, without acknowledging that you're going to be part of the flock. You're
Yeah.
you are going to be a part of it, and to what Jana said, they're not used to solitude, and that's just not something that's feasible for most people. To be with a to be with a pet 24/7, but everyone's striving to be their best, and you are going to be an inherent core to that parrot's life.
Absolutely, and I think I don't know if you guys have ever read, anything by Pat Anderson, Patricia Anderson. She talked about the human bird bond, human
Yeah.
parrot bond, and it is so important. But I think, but the piece that you mentioned, Cody, that they're not solitary, and Jana, you said it's not solitary is not an option. It really isn't. I mean, unless there's something radically wrong, a bird is sick, and then they're not right with the flock when you see them in the wild, there is that socialization piece that is so important. And I know, I've talked to people, and there are some people that are equipped to have a flock of birds. There are others that not so much. I mean, one bird is not a crime. I've had people get all, hurt when we're doing seminars and stuff. Well, I only have one bird. That's awesome. I applaud them because they're putting that energy in. And I think you guys are filling in that need, that socialization need, with Polybird.
Yeah.
Yes, I think our mindset is to take the best of the wild and the best of captivity and merge them together. And not everyone, like you said, not everyone has the capabilities to have, basically a small flock. And that also
Mhm.
doesn't mean that just because you put two birds of the same species together, that they're going to have a good time. They may not necessarily like each other.
Thank you so much for that because, it's for years everybody's like, "Oh, well, I got him and I went out and I got another parakeet. I got another fill in the blank." Nobody expects us to, nobody, well, in some cultures it happens, but, nobody
Hmm.
brought somebody to the house and said, "This is gonna be your mate. This is gonna be the person that you share your house with, whether you like it or not." We kind of maybe we went through that in college, right, where you got assigned a roommate, but,
Yeah.
you didn't have to be in that room with them all the time. And I think that's something that is absolutely a challenge faced by companion parrot owners.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and having multiple birds can add that complexity that you're trying to do the right thing. Everyone's trying to do the right thing, and that may add an additional complexity that you weren't necessarily anticipating. And when Jen and I were talking about Pollybird, we saw a lot of benefits of. We haven't seen it yet, but it's possible to have a parrot that could be in distress or feel territorial when you're having like a video conversation in person. You can still spread disease. There could be a conflict that happens between the birds where with video you can at least shut it off and you're not spreading a disease, a possible disease. I'm not saying everyone has a
Right.
communicable disease.
Well, no, and I think too that's so true. And a lot of times, if birds get stressed, they shed diseases, and that's not an issue with Polybird. It's and it doesn't take out the if you have an opportunity. Like I know up in the Pacific Northwest they do fly days. Flight Club does fly days, and we're not trying to replace that, but I think this is a great opportunity for maybe somebody. I know there's a woman that lives down my street that has a cockatoo, and that bird doesn't go out of the house. I know that for a fact. And there aren't bird people coming over to visit. And at the other end of the street, there's a cockatiel, and I know that bird's a solitary bird as well. And
Yeah.
in situations like that, maybe you can't take your bird out for whatever reason, doesn't go out of the house. And I think this is a great alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the pleasure of meeting a couple of folks that do, free flight with their birds at Parrot Festival. And it sounds amazing for their birds, and I'm so thrilled for them. I imagine those birds are in the minority.
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but I imagine they're in the minority. And so Polybird is really intended to be a, a both and or a supplement to all of the other enriching activities that
Mhm.
really thoughtful, loving, parrot companions, human companions are offering to their bird, really filling in that layer or rounding out the social connection need that
Yeah.
parrots are going to they have built in.
So in creating Polybird, what have you guys learned about parrot communication?
Yeah, I think the first one that kind of blew my mind was that uh, we've we as humans have similar kind of like language building, language learning aspects, even though they evolved separately. And so
Mhm.
my mental model of parrots is they're born natural communicators. They're
Mhm.
communicating day one on their hatch day. They're learning, they're watching, they're understanding. A
Mhm.
lot of a lot of our concerns around how they vocalize, how they change, actually shows quite a lot of flexibility. I'm not sure if you're familiar with there's an anecdotal story of Nigel, this parrot who was lost for 4 years, and it was a British man who had apparently owned this parrot, and he lost him for 4 years. They were able to come back together, and the parrot spoke Spanish and didn't have any British accent to it. And so
Mhm.
in our research, we were able to, as we were looking, we found some anecdotal and also some supportive structure of when parrots do go and are introduced to new flocks, they can actually
Mhm.
adopt or change kind of their signal that their contact calls
Yeah.
to more align with those flocks. And so I think for me, some of it was just the profundity of how flexible
Yeah.
the language capabilities are and how broad of memory they have to be able to span an entire flock and have those conversations.
Well, and there was research done years ago by Michael Schindlinger, and it was about dialects in Amazon parrots in the wild.
Mm.
That based on location, different flocks had different dialects, and it was fascinating. It's if anybody hasn't read his stuff, it was very interesting. But it's this, the same idea that they do change, they do evolve. And Karen made the point that every bird you add to your flock has a profound impact on all the relationships within that flock. And it's true. It's like when you bring, I don't want to anthropomorphize, but it's when you bring a new person into your friend circle. the dynamics change just a little bit. And yeah, absolutely, Adrian. Parrots are very flexible and adaptable. So the
Robin, if it would be all right, I would love to add to your a response to your question as well. As Cody was responding, where my brain was actually going, being a mom of an almost 3-year-old, spend a lot of time with toddlers these days, and so I can't help but observe a lot of parallels. So as we've been working with Pollybird, I think with regard to parrot communication, one thing that I've been reminded of is set my expectations down at the door, and don't limit myself from being amazed. And so experientially, um, giving each parent an opportunity as an individual to like figure out what's going on as they engage in this virtual conversation, this video conversation, but how quickly so many birds caught onto it, got into it, but found their own way of jiving in their parrot conversation. And some birds that were super chatty and dynamic with humans just sort of got immersed and absorbed and were really quiet and watching, but still very intently focused. And so it was just, every time I've had the opportunity of observing one side or another of these virtual parrot interactions with Polybird, it's a good reminder of, you know, this sense of kind of figuring it out, but then getting into it and really setting my expectations of how quickly a bird, similar to how quickly a toddler should be embracing a new person, and engaging, and how they should be engaging, and how they should be showing, hey, I'm into this. This is exciting. It looks different for every tiny human I work with or experience, and the same thing has been true. Um, as we've been on this journey with Polybird, is that each bird has kind of had their own style of warming up to it. So that's
Yeah.
been a good reminder and learning for me.
Yeah, I also to add on that, I also think outside of I think one of the things that really surprised me too was how much that vocalization was not only just core to socialization, but also core to bonding with the flock, that social cohesion. So outside of like allopreening, it seems like that vocalization is core to their identity, not only as an individual, but their identity within the flock.
And I think when we think about how they learn, and the different, if you take a bird out of a flock that was originally part of a flock, the accent may be different on their, when they're vocalizing with human vocalizations. They have very specific calls for different things, and they learn from the rest of the flock. It's not, they're not born knowing exactly what a alarm call is, or what a contact call. And I mean, that's a big one that we see a lot in behavior, is birds that are screaming. For some of them, it's not, it's not just for the heck of it. It's not just, oh, I'm going to scream just to make noise and annoy my human. It's, did everybody make it through the night? That contact, that check-in call. And I think, what you guys have created with Polybird is allowing them to connect with birds and have that sense of a virtual flock. And I think that's really important. It's great. So, all right, we've got the idea here of kind of where it came from and how you created this. How does it work? How does this work? Oh, here we go.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Do you want to talk through it?
Yeah, I think we can do a little bit of both.
Okay.
So I think our first and foremost focus was to try to make it as simple as possible. It's really about being to get the technology out of the way and make sure that the technology is serving its purpose. And so for us, really, it's the first screenshot you're seeing is the login screen. So after you're done registering and logging in, you can log in.
And it's available on iOS, Android, or traditional computer mode.
Yeah, anything that has a browser.
Yep.
You'll be able to use it on. And so once you have that built out, then you're immediately taken to a home screen where you get to see some of the flock time. So as we start building out the groups, we'll have some specific times where individuals can kind of mass together. And then you just click on either bird chat, which you can see at the very bottom of the phone, or find birds to chat with. And there you'll enter basically a matchmaking pool. And so right now what's you won't get like a two, not that this happens, but you're not going to get like a 2 a.m. call from the app. You have to be inside the matchmaking pool to actually have to engage in a conversation. And that's the once you click on find birds to chat with, or the bird chat at the bottom of the phone, that's when you'll enter the pool, and that's where you can see who's available to chat and who's not available to chat.
So super intentional there. So that again, it's not designed just to be a phone that is incoming for your bird, but you are intentionally offering this time for your bird. And you'll see 5 minutes available here throughout this screenshot. This is again based on the research we're starting with, up to 5 minutes per day for each bird that has a profile. So the idea and notion here is, birds have pretty short attention spans. We don't want to overtax that. And so short interactions, but frequent, consistent. So the idea is not a ton of time taxed on them, but daily or multiple days a week is maybe that sweet spot. And again, each individual will get to know what works well for their parrot. But here, if your bird is looking to hop on a chat, here you see 3 options: Kiwi, Nimbus, and Fuzzy Thistle. Nice names for the screenshots. And it's showing an incoming call from Nimbus. So you'd have the opportunity to accept and decline. So again, the interface here is going to be pretty intuitive for anyone who's used any phone in the past. And then you hop on a call and your bird gets to chat.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's a
So
screenshot giving you an idea.
this is great. I mean, even I could do it, and my listeners know that I'm not super tech savvy, but I could handle this. This is good, right? We
Yay,
could all
happy
kind
to hear that.
of so, um, so so I want to join the flock. I want to be part of this. How are you matching me with people? How does that work?
Oh, go ahead, tech
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, so right now what we have is we just have kind of an exploratory algorithm. So what it does is it sorts to get a feel for new contacts in the first couple, and then as we keep moving forward, then you can kind of cycle back previous contacts, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
describing it very well.
Yeah. So maybe to paraphrase that, right now, based on who else is online, right, they have to be also in the pool of looking to chat. The algorithm is picking up birds that your bird hasn't necessarily met before. So a little bit of speed dating, if you will, if you want to borrow that concept. But we will be building out features like favorites, because we know that bonds or friendships, for lack of better term, will emerge, and birds will want some of that consistency to call back certain birds that they've had some good connection with. Some of these features will evolve as we hear feedback from users saying, I really want to do this, or my bird, like it seems like they'd really like to speak to so and so. Down the road, there will also be matching opportunity or sorting opportunity based on species first and foremost, because we know that the humans are really excited about their particular species being able to connect and hang out and speak with another bird of that exact same species. So some of those sorting features and matchmaking features will be built out to make it a bit more sophisticated as we go along.
Okay. So you've done, some testing, and what are you getting as far as feedback is concerned?
Yeah, it's all been positive.
Yeah.
There's always concerns when dealing with any type of animal that for example, parrots see in different ways than we see. They can see some ultraviolet, and so is the screen going to be off-putting to them, or is the audio range going to be different, because the microphones for a mobile phone are going to be pretty rudimentary. They're going to be pretty collapsed in their size, but it seems to be both from a human and from the parrot perspective. It's all been positive. I think it's just been
Yeah.
overwhelmingly positive.
For our early user groups, we have had they've been so generous with their time in terms of doing calls and then hopping on phone calls with us afterward, right?
Mhm.
Where we're diving in going, how was that experience for your bird? What were your, really kind of getting the full picture around what they were observing, seeing, and what their perceptions of their bird's experience was like. And that's through all of the devices that it would be available on. They've used traditional computers, tablets, and phones, right? So as Cody was talking about, kind of spanning that spectrum of the microphones, so the hearing piece, the screens, etc. The biggest frustration we've heard so far is of birds that have had a couple of interactions, a particular pair, and they just weren't terribly interested in each other. But they were interested when they connected with other birds, but not particularly each other. So they just didn't jive. They may not be birds that want to keep calling each other, and that's to be expected. That said, and to Cody's point, we certainly, with the bird's health, safety, and wellness in mind, fully recommend that the human companions are supervising, right? It's up to 5 minute chat, right? So we are not recommending at this point in time, at least, that it's a set it and forget it situation. This is not a, set up Pollybird and then you can leave and your bird can be engaging for a long period of time. So supervise, make sure you are comfortable with how your bird is reacting, how they're exploring. If they are showing signs of distress, which we have not yet seen,
Yeah, not yet.
but if they are, we would imagine that will happen at some point for some bird or some subset of birds. Then take a step back. Maybe it's an opportunity to better socialize them with the technology first, which we recommend as well. Like, make sure they're comfortable with the technology. They're not afraid of the tablet or the phone. But take a step back and figure out what might be driving that distress and then support them accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's, we talked a little bit about this when we were at Parrot Festival and
Yeah.
when we spoke afterwards that, just I feel like it's really important for people to realize it's not a babysitter.
No.
It's a form of enrichment, and it is that short period of time, and that they do need to be aware of how the bird's reacting. It's we
Yeah.
all we talk a lot about, reading body language and things like that. And I think
Mhm.
it's important for people to realize that you do need to be aware of what your bird's body language looks like while they're on a call, on a chat,
Mhm.
because you may, I think you probably will down the road find somebody whose bird gets, a little huffy, a little,
Mhm.
maybe puffed up and fluffy when they're seeing this bird because it's a threat or it's a dominance thing or, whatever that may
Yeah.
be. But I think, as long as people are aware of that, I think it's a positive thing. And the other thing is, when we were talking about reducing stress, the potential to reduce stress in birds if they've got
Mhm.
a bird to interact with. Um,
Yeah.
a little bit of stress, and I think as a psychologist, you'll agree with me, a little bit of stress is positive because it builds coping skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y
Yeah. Particularly if the bird is already in a stable and safe environment, right? If you are not tinkering with too many variables all at one time, but if they're comfortable and feeling safe in their broader environment, and what else is going on around them, then they're allowed to navigate through that stressful new, in a much more constructive way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian says, "Get off my lawn." You know? But,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing is we haven't seen. It's not like we've watched all all the calls, but when we've been able to watch some of the calls, some of the things that haven't been said is how the human is actually smiling or actually enjoying
Yeah.
watching the interaction. They're actually engaging it. So that's not something that was provided feedback, but you can kind of observe that the vast majority of them
Mhm.
seem to be enjoying themselves,
Yeah.
having a little
No,
play date
absolutely.
with their parent.
And I think, Jana brings up a really good point. The bird's got to be kind of comfortable in itself. This is, I would say that this is not, if you've got the screaming hormonal, acting out bird, this is not going to fix it. This is not,
Yeah.
it could it could divert attention, which I think is important. Enrichment doesn't always have to be positive. We kind of hope that it will, but as far as welfare is concerned, it can be an outlet. But I think, honestly, that's a really good point. I wouldn't suggest taking your bird from, you come in and your bird's screaming and stuff. Let's get on a chat on Pollybird. I think it's, you as a companion parrot owner need to be aware that, okay, this might not be the best time to do this. When your bird's kind
Yeah.
of chill, and that's when it would be, more appropriate. But I think, you know, it's it's a diversion. It can be a diversion. And I think
Mhm.
that's a good thing for companion parrot owners.
Absolutely. I think if I were to summarize the quick tip in that is, especially as they're getting used to it and maybe the first several times that they have video chat conversations, catch them at their best, right? Give them their best shot of enjoying it, and having a good experience.
Yeah. And I mean, it's setting them up for success.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all try to do, in any kind of interaction we should be trying with when we've got our parrots to set them up to succeed in whatever we're asking them to do. Um,
Yeah.
so do you suggest to people that they do it at at a certain time every day? Like, when they're doing it, what are your suggestions for how to use this service?
I think two thoughts come to mind. One first is know your bird. And that might be a little bit of, trying it out at different times, and seeing what works well for them, and certainly, of course, what works well for within your the constraints of your own schedule, right? Let's be
Mhm.
reasonable here. um but also what we've heard as we've worked with the users we have is birds have kind of a cycle of energy throughout the day, and many of them
Mhm.
have kind of an early-ish morning set of energy and then an evening set of energy. And conveniently, that also tends to kind of align with folks that maybe have a traditional work schedule. It may align with the human companion's availability as well. So what what we've been engaging in with flock times is kind of an early morning and an early mid evening. So that might be something to think about and consider from a timing and scheduling standpoint. But again, it really also goes back to knowing your bird, knowing your personal schedule.
Mhm.
Yeah, and in the future, I know one of our milestones is to figure out ways to make it more of a choice for the bird,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because right now it's all human led,
Mhm.
and on top of our mind is how can we make sure that it's a bird's need that we're trying to fulfill, and so how can we let
Mhm.
them choose when they want to call, and have a chat with somebody as opposed to us being like, you will now talk to grandma and you will enjoy it.
Right, right. No, I think that is important, and I think that would be a great addition, down the
Yeah.
road. Jody says, knowing your bird is the most important part of it all, and I think that's
Yeah.
true. It's we can make all the suggestions we want, but it's you live with this creature in your home, and what works and what doesn't work. Um, so, okay, as an owner. What's the benefit for me as a caretaker of an animal that's living in my home? What's the benefit there?
You actually get more social connection too, right? You get an opportunity to help your bird engage in something that's really natural for them. And hopefully, most of the time anyway, is a really positive experience for them. And you are helping to facilitate that, and you're supporting them through that. And
Mhm.
I don't know, as a human, that sort of thing feels good. And so there's a lot of, I think, of that that benefit of seeing your bird do well, supporting your bird in really flourishing through
Mhm.
a fundamental need that they have, um, that then comes back to you. And then, of course, to the extent it enhances your bird in a positive way, they're gonna reciprocate that back in their broader relationship with you as well.
No, I absolutely, and I think, that it's as a bird owner, you want what's best, or hopefully you want what's best for your bird. Um, and then you know, it's a give and take. I mean, with any animal, and I'm sure, Cody, your mom with dogs, you get what you give. And so creating this opportunity for your bird is a very positive thing to do. Um, so we have two. Janice said, hook it up to Alexa and have the bird make the call.
Love
Oh,
that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
I love
so
that.
Yeah.
you gotta pay Janice, or at least give Janice a free subscription or something here. But
Sounds
um,
good.
and then Nick asked if we could see a call. Can we do that?
Yeah, certainly. If you,
Yeah,
yeah, it's all
there
right.
we go. Thanks, Nick.
Who's that? Hmm? Is that Pedro? Go party bird.
Nice. So, that was the first interaction with those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can speak on it more. You were there.
Yeah, I was there. That was super fun. And that actually didn't catch Pedro at his finest.
Mhm.
So there's Deja, and she was or she is a bird that, from what I've heard, is pretty chatty. So she's a really chatty bird with humans, and her initial reaction and response was really kind of intent, paying attention. And then
Mhm.
Pedro down at the bottom, he wasn't afraid to flaunt his stuff pretty quickly. And so I don't think this clip of it captured it, but he started dancing pretty quickly, wings out, really kind of it was almost like Latin music was playing in the background. So that was really fun. So two very different reactions on the same call, with birds that are also different in terms of their human interaction style as well.
Nice. It's great. Now, so was this a conversation between this budgie and a macaw?
Yeah. Yeah. So Harriet is the macaw, and she stepped back and was pretty quiet during the call, but did a lot of preening. And so Hazel from Avian Suites was actually in the room with her during this call, and so chatting with her after. We asked what Harriet's experience was like, and it was, she'd kind of inspect the phone, but then she'd hang out, do a little self preening. So clearly very relaxed, interested, and treated it sort of like a hangout session.
Huh, very cool. So,
Yeah.
well, Karen says that Pedro's a total ham. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
they don't talk about the A word that we can connect with at Michelle's house, but the and Ziggy's, her Timna African Gray is watching with her, so we'll have to get some feedback from Ziggy's to see what they
Yeah.
think. How that Ziggy's. I was talking to Jana and Cody about
Yep.
Ziggy's before. They're a great rescue down in Florida. So we'll have to see what they think down there and what the response was. So, um, so overall, when you look at parrot enrichment, parrot welfare. Where do you guys see yourselves in that landscape, in the big picture?
You want to talk about the stack?
Yeah, we kind of have this concept of kind of a animal welfare, animal enrichment stack, and most people are trying to make it as tall as possible or as wide as possible, depending on how you want to do it. But there's a variety of different aspects of it. There's the habitat, there's training, there's food, there's sanitation. And for us, I think as research continues to develop, socialization is becoming very, very clear is very important. And so we see ourselves as more of as an and, right? Like it's not a replacement of anything. It's an in addition to, where you want to be able to simulate natural foraging as much as possible. You're also going to want to be able to simulate conversations that they would naturally have in a flock.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add, Jen?
No, I think that summarized it really well. We see ourselves really as Pollybird, not ourselves, but Pollybird is really serving a complementary value to the birds, in addition to all of the other efforts the wonderful humans are making for their parrot companions.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great addition to the enrichment toolbox. I think, enrichment is my baby. I mean, that's what I love and I work on all the time. And, I've always approached it from a sensory perspective that, you've got dietary, olfactory, auditory, and auditory gets left out. People are like, "Oh, well, I turned on the TV." Well, okay, that's good. It is auditory enrichment, and or music, things like that. But there's so much more, and you guys have taken it to that next level of auditory and then visual as well. So you've checked two boxes, on the enrichment list for me, because you've covered both of those. And I think Pollybird really offers two for the price of one, visual and actually three, visual, auditory, and social. Because I think we really don't all we focus on the tangible, when we're developing
Mhm.
enrichment. We focus on the toy, the item that you can give them, which is important. It's absolutely important. But this is just that next level. And I think it's great. I love it. So really,
Thanks.
Thanks.
good job. So, and welfare is another thing. We talk about we want the best welfare we can have for our birds. And I think for me anyway, what you guys have created brings part of that natural dynamic in. And I think the more we can do that mimics nature, the better the
Mhm.
welfare is. I
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
think
I agree with you. I think that's I think we shared this before, which is like we trying to take the best of the wild aspects of it and then the best of captivity. There's a lot of great perks to being captive. But
Yes.
there's also some downsides to it. And so the sooner we can bring those in, the better. And you're right. I think in the stack, I think socialization hasn't been as focused, and that's okay because you wanted them to have clean water, good food, nice diet, foraging, since that's so core. But it's critical to a social species to be able to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ziggy's just commented, the visual interaction bird to bird is amazing. The subtle shifting of feathers is a whole conversation that we cannot even see. And it's true. I mean, there's a dynamic to that conversation that we don't we don't communicate on that level. And
Yeah.
you've provided this opportunity, which is phenomenal. So, all right. So we love it. How can listeners become involved? How can they access Pollybird?
Super simple. And Nick conveniently has the exact website, the exact URL to hop onto. And so you can check out what we've got posted on our website, and it's an easy sign up. And then you create a really simple profile for your bird. And we are building out options for memberships we know there's a lot of multi-bird homes out there, right? And so some memberships that have multiple birds, and you're like, I think a couple of them are going to want to do this. We've got some options there, but it's a matter of creating a profile, and then again making sure that whichever bird you're gonna share this with, that they're comfortable with the technology you plan to use. I can't stress that enough. We really want to make sure that it's a positive experience for them. And then once you sign up, stay tuned for some information from us around flock times, and figure out when it fits into your schedule, and then join one and come and chat. And I will note, as I mentioned, the flock times, the system is available all the time, but the flock times are really intended to ensure that when you hop on and your bird's kind of ready to go, and you're like, okay, they've got attention, like they're ready, that there's going to be another bird or some options for them to meet with as we continue to grow.
Awesome. And so I'm going to ask the question, what is the cost? What's the cost structure look like?
Yes. So the cost is $90 for an entire year for a single bird, or $150 for 3 or more birds, or up to 3 birds, excuse me. And if you have more than 3 birds, reach out to us, and we'll help support you with that. And so it's really intended to be an affordable approach to give your bird that consistent connection experience.
No, I mean, this is wonderful, and that's not bad at all. That's very realistically priced. Thank you. So you guys have social media. You have a Facebook
We do.
page.
We
Okay,
do.
so
We
people
do.
can.
Yep. Check us out. Facebook, Instagram. We're hopping on TikTok, and a few others. So should be easy to find us under Pollybird Video Chat.
Excellent. I think that's great. And so people can see what other people are doing on your social media. Are we seeing, are you sharing like experiences, things like that?
We will continue to do that. Yeah. Yep.
And we're in the early stages of our social media, but yes, that's the plan. Yeah.
Well, you guys, I mean, honestly, social media is daunting. Like unless you're hiring somebody to do your social media, because you're trying to run the company, take care of your little one, and all of that. And so I am here to attest to the fact that if I didn't have Nick, it would be hopeless. So you guys might want to get a Nick. I'm just saying.
We might need a Nick.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I can appreciate that. Yes.
Well, thank you, Nick, for helping Rob.
Nick also asked, is there a trial period? Do you have anything like that, or?
Yes. So we do, we have a 90-day trial period, I believe, because that should give you plenty of time to ramp up, get a feel for it. If you have multiple birds, you may find that 1 or 2 gravitate towards it as opposed to, the entire group. And then we also have a kind of a money back guarantee, and then a prorated refund if for some reason something happens. You just tell us, and we'll try to make sure everything works out in the best for everyone.
Our policies really align with When Wild and Polybird's missions of Polybird is bird first, and we mean that in the full gambit of that statement. So if you join and your bird's comfortable with the device and does some calls, and you're really getting the sense over some time that this is just not a fit, reach out, and and we will take care of that. And so this is intended to be a positive experience for your bird, or birds plural, as well as you, the human. And we mean that, and we stand by that.
I think that's amazing. You've got some fans here. Hazel says she loves you guys. Can't wait to see how many birds this can benefit. And And, Karen says a plus here is that you don't have to do a lot of training, prep, etc. It's funny that Karen says that, because I was actually thinking as we were talking that you could do some training around
Mhm.
getting used to the device. That
Yeah.
might be
Yep.
something that, you'd have to do with your bird, but it's not intensive training. It's just a matter of, and I think you touched on Jana, you touched on like expectations,
Mhm. Yeah.
going into certain expectations. And I mean, I have to admit, in the past, I have been the overachieving mom, the one that, no, you're going to love this. This is the best ever. Look at it. Look, 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 and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. And we just have to
Yeah.
be careful that we're not doing that with this technology, because I think it's great. And it's just a matter of introducing it slow and steady, and then you guys are there to answer questions, so people can reach out to you if they have questions with the tech or the
Absolutely.
process. Okay.
Any
And
and
I
all
want to thank.
questions. I was
No,
going to say, especially since we're and this is a newer product, right? The more we can hear what's on your mind, whether it's awesome or challenging or frustrating, right? Any questions you have, that allows us to then address it in a way that will pay dividends to all the birds, right? And all the humans. And so we want to hear from folks. Yeah. And to your point about training, Robin, certainly desensitization, making sure you're comfortable with the device, and then potentially some target training to the screen so they know to focus and look at the screen. That's a plus. It's not a requirement. And then for those really overachieving birds that really like to engage with the screen, we will be building out a bird mode that simplifies, makes the buttons larger, that sort of thing. So you'll be able to switch into bird mode for those overachieving, really excited birds that want to be able to tap themselves and
Right.
navigate themselves on the screen.
I think that's great. And it's baby steps like anything else, like
Yeah.
start off, see how it goes, and really observe and be honest about things, like, is this
Yeah.
working? Yes, it's working. This is the best ever. Maybe we need to, not you guys, but the companion parrot person needs to tweak things a little bit. Maybe it's when you do it, where you do it. I mean, and all of that
Mhm.
comes into, you're not going to, I don't think people are going to have success with, in a busy, bustling room full of people trying to do this. That's not, you've got to
Yeah.
set them up to succeed. Karen says it took Sugarbeak a nanosecond to get into this the first time. Sugarbeak
Yeah.
is like, we all know that that Sugarbeaker is a little bit, she's extra. So, um, if she likes it, and Michelle says Shadow would too. Shadow would be into it. So, um, I want to thank you guys so much, and I also want to thank you, for those of you that don't know. Pollybird is one of the sponsors of the Rockstar Rescue Tour. Thank you guys so much, and
Yeah.
we're going to be talking with rescues about doing some of this work with them. And so, thank you again, for supporting what we're doing. And any final words from you guys? So I just want everybody to get off the live stream and go sign up for Pollybird, because I'm so excited about this. I think it's really wonderful.
Well, we would love that, and we love your excitement, Robin. I think any and all questions, send them our way. We are so excited to hear from each and every one of you, whether it's questions before joining, questions after joining. We are here to support you through the process, and we are so excited about how this is all taking shape. Again, a huge thank you to Karen Anderson, Hazel Banks, and their broader team. We have an incredible group of folks that round out areas that are new for us. And so as we've been diving in with our skill sets, we also have incredible partners that have complementary skill sets. And yeah, so we're beyond grateful and very excited.
Ziggy says that they started their profile yesterday.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yes, the east is wonderful. I'm actually going to be down there. So maybe I'm going to be down there next weekend for their open house. So maybe we can try it out while I'm there because they won't be busy doing their open house or anything.
No. Let's chat offline, Robin. We'll figure something out.
We definitely will. All right. Well, you guys take care. Thank you so much. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the Rockstar Tour, we've got the Double the Love sale. Order a box and the rescue that you send it to gets 2 on the tour. So, and thank you everybody who is supporting us. We've got an incredible list of sponsors and supporters for this year's tour. And we also have 26 wonderful facilities that we'll be visiting. So it's going to be fun. Carrie and I always have fun. So, we're going to be visiting with Pollybird when we go to Minnesota and when we stop at the suites, we'll catch up with you guys there too. So,
Yes.
All right, you guys take care. Happy Valentine's Day. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
You too.
Yeah, the same to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah.